That was a big sigh. Where's the Christmas spirit?
Oh, sorry. Ho, ho, ho. How are you?
Hello, ho, ho. And a merry welcome to our listeners on this, the most festive of days.
Yeah, we could do. I don't know if anyone will listen to it, so it might do better than some of the other episodes.
Hey.
But it's Christmas, isn't it? I mean, we're recording this sometime
in August.
In August, like to get them in the can.
Yeah. Like every other Christmas shoot.
It's Christmas. I mean, we're kind of doing this in mid-December, aren't we? So how
Christmassy am I feeling? Fuck all.
Oh, right. that good. Excellent. Well, I'll bring the festive cheer then. It's been a tough 10 days.
I've got a hat.
You did actually bring a hat, Greg. Yeah. You look fantastic.
Well, that's because I was having a bad hair day. And you can't see its fabulous colours because we're so cool that we record in black and white, so it just looks like I'm wearing a grey hat. So that is actually green and red.
Well, it's very nice. Very nice. I appreciate the effort. Frantically looks around for anything that can be Christmassy.
Just shaking some bells. Why don't you have some bells on the table?
I've got my Christmas hat. my pro photo magnum. I don't know.
You should be on the Eastern Front in 1944.
I haven't. Do you know what, actually, does anyone do anything Christmassy in their office? Like,
we have a Christmas party.
Oh, you do? Still waiting for my invite.
You've had the invite. The slight problem I have this year with the Christmas party is arranged a Christmas party, invited lots of people, and then got a job that came in, and now I'm literally going to be landing in Heathrow as the party's kicking off. And I've yet to decide whether or not I'm going to have the energy to go straight from the airport to the studio. But who knows?
I mean, it wouldn't be Christmas if there were. That sounds like a very if Home Alone 2, I think it is, was a photographer.
Oh dear.
So I sort of imagine all your studio mates to now be throwing out micro machines all over the floor and marbles.
Yeah, that's Home Alone 1. See, I mean, the problem with Home Alone 2 is, that Trump would have to make a cameo, which I really don't want to happen.
I think he's busy.
It would be quite good bragging rights, wouldn't it, to say that the orange Trump had turned up.
Would it, though? No, I'm definitely not going then. I mean, to be fair, I will
coming,
be.
I'm not
100%. No, I'm out. But that should be fun. And obviously, it's an open invite, isn't it, to all the listeners?
Yeah. So the address is in
North London.
Yeah.
So what else has been going on? Obviously, the Christmas decks are all up in the office. Can see all the tinsel and stuff.
We've had Black Friday, haven't we?
Right.
That was
so
fun.
This is an interesting thing, right? Because I believe you waited to order a desk.
A desk riser.
A desk riser, an expensive one, like not a cheap one. This was the one you really wanted. You'd set your heart on it, coveted it for months. All I've heard about for months, when I've been trying to get through your restraining order, has been this desk riser. And you'd be like, Tom, you've messaged me how many times about my desk setup? And you're like, yeah, okay, cool, the desk riser. That's what I want. All right, cool. Yeah. Twice a day, minimum. And then, Greg, what happened on Black Friday?
I was a bit groggy. I saw that there was a discount. I was like, yay, there's finally a discount. I'm going to just order it now. I'd just woken up. I don't think this was on Black Friday itself. I'm not that weird.
It was on Black Friday week.
Like, I'll just get it ordered now. So I started to order it on my phone. Ordered it and got to the checkout, kind of put the order through, and then realised in hindsight that the Black Friday deal involved a code that I'd forgotten to put in. So my 15%, I didn't get it. Denied. And to top it off, to make matters worse, the bloody thing was coming from Germany. So I was then hit with import duty from Parcel Force. Yay, Brexit!
That sunlit upland.
Yeah. So that was an utterly... And it's arrived, and it is very underwhelming.
Is there any part of this experience that was good? Did Parcel Force deliver it on time? Yeah, funny that.
Those bloody targeted ads, they know my weakness. No, but I did buy a fancy little leather desk pad, which has actually improved my desk no end, and that cost pennies.
Real leather, is it?
Yeah, God knows. Vegan leather. I know. I don't know what it is. No, I tried not to buy too much. There's loads of banter going around on various groups that we're members of on WhatsApp and what have you. This deal and that deal. I tried to avoid it all. I did buy the one thing that I bought, which I think will be interesting. We'll see. Is I bought some like wheels for my tripod, but like similar to the Tether Tools one, but it's just one by Small Rig. So rather than
wheels.
Yeah, so it's basically like a base that you secure your tripod into.
Greg, listen, don't want to be that guy. Isn't the point of a tripod that it stays still?
Yeah, but I'm such an active photographer, Tom.
Sure, no, I don't
like to whiz around and I'm shooting.
I don't doubt that for a split second. But if I'm on a shoot and the camera's locked off, I don't want to turn around and be like, "Oh, it's wheeled off."
Away, Jed.
Where's it gone?
You bugger. Yeah, so my tripods just like to be free.
Explain the use case for unfixing a fixed asset.
Sound like my accountant. So I have, this is for when I'm tethering, and it's actually for the tether station. So what I've done recently is invested in some more wonderful bits and bobs from LS Digi.
Shout out to LS.
Kindly sorted me out with an awesome base plate for the for my Digi plate, which means that I can use it in the Arca Swiss capability or on a baby pin, etc. Much better than the one that I had previously. And I've also rigged up my V-Lock now to run the D-tap through to USB-C, so I can charge the laptop on it and do all of that. So basically, I was interested in seeing how it ran, and I've used it once. Bit of a weird one. Made a mistake, which I'll probably never make again. Basically, when we went away,
you have to tell us the details now.
When I went away on holiday, we came back and there was some kind of stuff going around at the nursery of a nursery photographer that had turned up and taken some pictures. And there was a couple of parents, ourselves included, although we weren't even aware of it because we never read the emails from nursery. This photographer had turned up, and a couple of the parents had missed the opportunity to have their pictures taken.
Greg.
And thankfully, my nursery are like, "Oh, but you're a photographer, aren't you?" And I was like, "Yes, yes, I am." And they're like, "Oh, would you be interested in maybe taking pictures of some of the parents who missed out?" And I was like, maybe. And I put it off for as long as I could, but it kind of got quite awkward, a pickup where they were like, "Oh, so have you had any more time to think about?" I was like, it's not going away, is it? So in the goodness of my heart and trying to be all festive, I was like, right, well, I'm just going to get on the parents' WhatsApp group and be like, listen, I heard some of you missed out your chance to have your kids photo taken. If you want to bring your horrible little mutts around here, I'll do it. So, no, I basically offered to take some pictures for a couple of the parents that had missed out on the opportunity to have their photos taken by the official photographer that I think had obviously part of some baby photographer company and based down in Southampton or something. I mean, it's a weird business model, but I guess horses for courses. I've got a newfound respect for them. That's all I can say, because I, with my hubris, thought, oh, this can't be that hard. It'll be fine. I'll set up a little studio in the kitchen and, I'll just splash them out. Now, I scheduled it for a Sunday.
Blash them?
Blash. It's like smash and...
Blast.
And blast. Yes. Splash. I'm copyrighting that. No, it's like what was the first one? Smash and
Blast.
Bosh. Yes, that's what I was. Smash and Bosh. So what? Basically, sorry, the car garage is just phoning me. It's very unprofessional. I really don't want to talk to them. You know all about that.
Do you want to pause?
No, we're not going down that. No, it's another tangent. Let's carry on this story. So,
sure.
Flash, cut to kitchen, set up. It was going to be on a Sunday. It was like, fine. Some of the parents couldn't do that Sunday. So I was like, fine, we'll move it to the next Sunday. Moved it to the next Sunday. Looked at my calendar. Oh, I've got a 40th the night before. Okay. It's fine. It'll be sensible. Look at the 40th. It's a clubbing night. I haven't been clubbing in like 10 years. Cut to staggering back in at 5 a.m, knowing full well
that you have to set that up.
In a few hours I have to get up and take kids' pictures with the smell of booze oozing out of every pore of my body.
Oh, good God.
Yes. So,
Greg.
A few hours sleep, 2 to be precise. Got back up. Kids jumping on me in the morning. My kids. That'd be weird.
Take my picture. Take my picture. Right. Yeah.
It took me a good 2 hours to set up. I was that ropey. I'm pretty sure at one point I was crawling across the kitchen floor, much to my wife's amusement. Set up this backdrop. We're quite lucky. We've got kind of big windows at the back of the house, like bifold doors, so we get quite nice natural light. But of course, it's winter at the moment, and lo and behold, it was pissing with rain. But anyway, what I've done before is I've actually set up lights outside in the garden to fire, and then used the windows as massive diffusers and put up like a 2x2 panel in front of them. So I kind of was running to do something similar, and yeah. Luckily, a few of the parents cancelled. I don't know if they'd heard rumours of my 5 a.m. return, but one parent was like, yeah, super keen, still coming. So they turn up, and I was like, oh, there's 2 kids. I thought they only had 1. Turns out there were 2. I was like, okay. In my head, I'm like, fine, I can manage this. And I'm like, parents look quite, smart. Like they're slightly dolled up, but I don't want to judge. I don't know them that well. Maybe this is just how they are. It's like, they do look like they've really kind of made a bit of an effort. Quite quickly hit me that they actually wanted a family portrait. So,
of course.
So it went from a single, kid sat on a stool, which is what in my head was like, that'll be easy, to a family of 4 having their portrait taken by a very strange smelling photographer in his kitchen. I say strange smelling, I just smell of booze.
The night before.
Yeah.
Listen, Greg, I need to let you into a secret. There is power in saying no.
Yes.
Right? Like, here's the thing. All of this hassle, all of this drama, all of the people taking advantage of your incredibly kind nature, you could have just said, if someone ever says anything like that to me, I just say, that's very thoughtful that you think I can do that, but that is not the type of photography I do.
Yeah.
And then they say, what is it you do? And I say, it requires a team.
And they're like, what?
Portraits. Family portraits. No, it's like,
sorry, your
honestly,
child is not famous enough.
But here's a great lesson. Like, make sure next time you just who are you trying to like appease? Like, if they were just trying their luck, if you just said, I'm afraid that's not the sort of thing I do, that would have been the end of it. They're not going to push you after that. They're going to be like,
when they turned up on the doorstep.
Right. Bang, 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 bang. Let us in.
You're not the type of people I can photograph. I'm sorry.
but if you had just said
lessons
no.
learned. Yeah, I know. I was trying to be nice. I was like, it's very rare in our line of work. I mean, occasionally you photograph people and people ask for like, oh, we love that picture of, you took. It might be some family or somebody who's not particularly, it's not like, okay, yes, you can license the image. Like, sometimes you're like, yeah, of course, I'd love to be able to get you a print. It's really nice that you liked the image or whatever. And that's a nice thing to do. But those opportunities are kind of a bit few and far between. So occasionally when something like this comes and you think, oh, actually I can give something back, I can do something for like the local community in that sense. And, at the same time, it's just a nice thing to do for other parents because I know, what kind of situations they can be in and how stressful being a parent can be. But I've since learnt my lesson. It was fine. They're really happy with the pictures.
Obviously. You're an incredibly talented photographer. They're not going to be like, these are a bit shit. At no point. They've just got the value that they have just got because they weren't at the nursery pictures. It's like it's not really something they can complain about.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised, wouldn't you? Like members of the public. I mean, I remember, I think there is always that thing of it's one thing working with clients. I think wedding photographers probably get this a lot more than any other type of photographer is actually working with just everyday people. Is they actually probably see more variety of people having vastly strange opinions on things or takes on stuff. I don't know if, when I used to shoot weddings, I used to make sure I kind of had a sit down interview with everyone before I agreed to do a wedding. Or people came through recommendations because I didn't advertise that I did weddings. And that was for a very good reason because you had to basically be able to assess quite quickly whether or not this couple were going to be normal or like totally crazy. Which
sure,
happens,
okay. I get that.
Everyone's got different expectations. So you just got to manage the expectations in those situations. And I kind of learnt that in the past. And obviously, I'm not saying I'd forgotten it because this couple were lovely and they had lovely kids, whatever. So there's nothing on that. It's just, it just wasn't what I needed on that Sunday.
Or any Sunday.
Or any given Sunday.
See me like that. That's so, just, I mean, without meaning to sound like I think it is Nancy Reagan, just say no.
What about drugs?
Yeah, say no to drugs. But it's we get asked for this sort of stuff, or less so, I think, when you get to a certain level, right? But obviously, you can still see how that can happen. Like, people. When I remember when I first took on my studio years ago, my old landlord, bless him. Actually, I don't really want to tell this story because he's passed away. And it doesn't paint him in the best light. But it was kind of like I went into him and he was an old greengrocer, and I'd said, I want to turn this old fruit and veg warehouse into a photo studio. He goes, what, like weddings? And I was like, no. He goes, what, like porn? And I was like, no, believe it or not, there's another type of photographer. And I should also say he was the loveliest bloke who used to then come. Actually, I don't know if I've ever talked about him he was an absolute diamond. When he'd run his business, his little fruit and veg business from that warehouse that he hand built in the 50s with his brother. And then they became our maintenance guys. So even when they were in their 80s and 90s, they still were coming to do the maintenance on the building themselves.
With punnets of carrots for you as well.
Honestly, man, it was like the Chuckle Brothers. They were like bringing like an RSJ through in their mid 80s on their shoulders and like clanging into things and all sorts. They were so much fun. But when he'd moved his business out and I moved my business in, he then joined me every day in the studio for 4 or 5 months. When me and him obviously became quite close, he would sit in the corner and read the Racing Post like he had done for 30 something years. And he was like, "Oh, you all right, son? You all right if I come and sit?" And I'm like, "Phil, your house is my house, or my house is your house. I'm not entirely sure how the lease works, but come on in."
Yeah.
And he was an absolute diamond. And then one day he just strolled in, and I had a Bentley in the studio, and we had managed to like reverse it in, and we had like an inch either side of this Bentley. And he just walked in and just sat down in his chair, opened up the Racing Post, and he just totally, like it was the most normal thing in the world that there was a Bentley that had been reversed into this warehouse. There were like people climbing all over it and all sorts. And he was just like, yeah, it's cool. No, it's great. I love what you do. He was actually, that's an even funnier story. When I took on the place, I used to have this old studio that was like hidden down behind the house, really. And he used to own a house, or still does, or did. And the garden had been converted into this warehouse that he'd then built access to via the driveway.
Right.
I turned up on the driveway, and there was a hand painted sign with like proper scraggly writing saying "yard to let." And I was like, I'm looking for a studio locally. I'll give him a shout. And this lovely old bloke picks up the phone and goes, "Oh, hello, son. Yeah, you down at the yard?" And I was like, "Honestly, mate, I don't know. I'm on someone's driveway." And he goes, "Yeah, that's the place. That's the place." Driveway. Yeah, and I was just like, right. And then about 5 minutes later, this doddery chap kind of comes around the corner and he goes, "Oh, hello, mate. Hello, nice to see you. Nice to see you." And you know those people you meet in life who have just got such a gift of making you feel like super at home, part of the family. Like instantly, I was just like, we're going to be pals, regardless of what's going to happen. I'm either going to photograph you or we're going to become tenant, landlord, whatever. And we walked into this little warehouse and I was like, "Oh, this is a great space." And then he showed me there was like an old fridge in it, in massive, great old cold store. And then we went upstairs and there was a big office and stuff as well. And then there was some big storerooms. And I was like, in my head, I'm going, this is way out of my budget. How can I afford this? And a bit of a gift of the gab on both of our points, because I was like, "Well, listen, how much do you want for the main room?" And he goes, I don't know, what, 750? And I was like, "Yeah, all right." And he goes, "Well, that's for the place." And I was like, "What, the whole place? What, the storage, the offices upstairs, the cold store at the back?" And he goes, Yeah. You seem like a nice lad." And that was how I got my first studio.
Wow.
So I rang up my mate, who was a record producer, incredibly talented record producer. Shout out to Sam. And I was like, "Do you want to go in on a studio and you can build a live room downstairs in the fridge and have the control room upstairs, and we'll turn it into like a little creative little hub?" And he was like, "Yeah, all right." Came down, saw it, and then a week later we were in there ripping out all the zinc out of the fridge. Because they got Phil, the landlord, the legend that was Phil. He sadly is no longer with us, but he was an absolute giant from where we're from. Is like everyone knew him. And I said, "Oh, you all right if I do some work with the place?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, son, do what you want as long as it earns you a bit of bunts. I don't care." And I was like, "Mate, how often would you find a lovely landlord like that who lets you do whatever you want with the place?"
Yeah.
And then is just like full on supportive, comes and hangs out, and is like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." Loved it.
Basically, you were in his garden.
I was basically in his garden. Yeah. No, he lived like 2.5 miles away.
Oh,
but his like his
who
daily
lived in the house.
He leased it out.
Okay.
At one point, there was a guy in there who made particularly good curries. Now, when we first moved in, there was a guy who lived in the house who was such a lovely guy from Sri Lanka, and he would make us curries while we were working and insulating the roof of the studio and painting it all white. And it was such a lovely time. Like I was surrounded by all these lovely, amazing people who it felt like, when things just feel like really right.
Yeah.
And we were exciting. There for like 7 or 8 years.
When you've got a space like that and you can you've got a vision for it as well. Like one of the guys in our studio has recently built a dark room in one of the other spare spaces in the building. And they, before, I can't remember who was using it before, but they built in, they put in prefab walls, and they have got kind of a proper color developer in there, put up massive metal sheets so you can put your prints up and stuff. And they've done an amazing job on it so far. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like, for them, they're super excited about it. It's taken them a while to do it and get around to it between jobs and what have you, because they're both working photographers. But for me, there's a little bit of thinking, maybe in the new year, that could be something I have a go at getting back into, because I haven't printed in the darkroom for at least 10 years.
Yeah, same.
I used to have one in a friend's place in Brixton that I used, but I haven't done colour printing ever.
No, I don't think I have. I've only ever developed black and white, and I think that was even like way back school, college kind of time.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that if you can do it yourself, it's like that magic for a lot of photographers of our generation. I think their first experience of photography was probably the dark room and seeing an image emerge in the developer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no substitute for that for me, for like the kind of magic of photography. It's kind of like this idea that you've got this little negative and then you put light through it onto a bit of paper and then you put that paper in some magic liquid and it kind of like a picture emerges. And yeah, I think that might be something I have to get involved in the new year.
What's their deal with it? Is it private use, or are they going to be hiring it out? Or
they're going to be offering memberships for people to use it, so you pay like a monthly membership. I think that's the plan. So,
well, obviously,
obviously, where we are in South London, there's other dark rooms around, so it's not. But there's probably less dark rooms in South London, I imagine, than there are in East London, because East London's full of hipsters who shoot film. Whereas South London, it's full of realists,
geezers who shoot digital,
trying to make bunts.
Trying to make
in it
bunts.
for the bunts. Well, so speaking of bunts and Black Friday, though,
don't.
We need to circle back to this because we've had a bit of chat on the patrons WhatsApp group. The gauntlet has been put down, hasn't it, Tom? The challenge has been made.
Greg, it has. Look, where are we at? We are currently. I don't know if you can see this.
Nope, countdown timer on his phone.
Countdown timer on my phone. We're currently at 90 days. And
90 days left, shall we say?
90 days left. Yeah, right. Can you imagine that? There's been a bit of a gap between episodes here. So, do you want to? Explain what's happened, and then I'll tell them the effects it's had.
Well, who was it? Who set down the challenge?
Hayden. Thank you, Hayden.
Right. Thanks, Hayden.
My new
Hayden, who I got to meet in person the other day. It was very nice to meet you, Hayden. At drinks the other night. It's a nice thing about Christmas, actually, isn't it? Random Christmas parties where you actually get to and put faces to names. But so he laid down a gauntlet that you should try and get through 100 days without buying any more kit. And this was quickly jumped upon by everyone else in the group who was like, yes, that's a great idea.
Thanks to everyone else for piling in on this and really kind of hammering it home. And then they were like, all right, we're going to do like, there's going to be a wager on it. And I'm like, whoa. My God.
So you have 100-day challenge to basically not buy any more kit.
Correct.
And you've got 10 days in.
I'm 10 days in. And it goes, without giving away the magic of when we record the podcast, not that anyone will actually be caring about when we do that. But basically, I am going to the 6th of March, 2024, without buying any kit.
Can he do it, listeners? Can he do it? Place your bets.
Yeah, drum roll, please. Well, do you know what? It's interesting,
We should have done it for charity, Tom. We should have done it for the X-negative charity, which is us.
I tell you what, let's make it interesting then. If I buy any kit, it will cost me an extra £500 that I will donate to a charity.
To my pocket.
So if I do buy any kit, I'll donate a £500.
Okay, here donation. You go, in the Christmas spirit.
But I'm determined not to break it.
But now that you said that you're going to do that, and I really want you to give some money to charity, I'm going to find like weekly deals.
This is a good deal. Have you seen this?
That's amazing.
But what is it more that I could possibly need? I will also listen quickly. There are a couple of bits of gear that have been ordered way before this started. Yeah, I should probably say. So the 24-105. Yeah. No, I went as soon as that was announced.
Listeners know.
No. Maybe they don't understand how keen. I'm sure there's lots of listeners who are keen for the 24-105 RF 2.8. I was so keen that I pre-ordered it
before it was even a concept.
Can you imagine that? In 1984, when I was 84, when I was born, I pre-ordered it. No, I actually rung my local camera shop, about 6 months ago, and I was like, guys, I'm hearing rumblings. Yeah. Consider me solid pre-order. I
How
want
do
to
your
be number
local
one.
camera shop feel about this 100-day having to shut up, aren't they?
I haven't told them.
They're shuttering.
I hope not.
When you phone, there's a special dial tone. It's like the bat phone.
It is, yeah. There's a single red phone.
Like,
I have my own phone number in. Actually, I do have the manager's mobile. I just call the manager.
Barnes is calling.
Oh my
Check
god!
the stocks. Check the stocks.
The shutters go down.
Yeah.
No,
they shoo all of the other customers out of the shop so they can give you your undivided attention.
Do you know what's quite funny? Because I used to tell this story very differently. I used to be like, yeah, I'm like the overall single order record holder, and I'm the annual spend record holder. And I used to tell it like really proud, and now I'm like a bit like, oh, actually, that's not that cool. What that basically is I wasted a lot of money per year and in a single go. I'm like, all right, cool. But I'm like, people like have been offering me some amazing deals on kit. I just don't need it. And I've got 90 days left.
Well, it is going to be tricky, isn't it? To I don't know what we're going to talk about on the Firesides.
Do you know what? We'll figure it out, Greg. Like we
talk about kit you're going to buy when it's all done and you can spend again.
I did do a little bit of a purchase before all of this happened. Not because I knew this was happening. I had just bought some kit. And then a few days later, this all kicked off in the group, and now I'm not allowed to spend any money till 6th of March, which is it's interesting. I've no idea.
You should have taken it into April to the new tax year.
My tax year doesn't go like that. Okay. My tax year is Jan to Jan. So I'm limited. So it's I don't know how my accountant's going to be like, you're what? No, you need to spend. But we'll see how that goes.
Probably not after the year we've had.
No, probably 2023 has not necessarily encouraged that kind of spending. This is why when people are like, you've not got to buy any equipment for 100 days, I'm like, yep, no problem. 2023 said to that. But I'm reading this amazing book. So now Hayden's going to be like, oh yeah, interesting. There's an amazing book by a guy called Jocko Willink. Ever seen this?
Discipline one.
That's right, the self-discipline one. And I'm basically
You've been reading that for years.
Dude, I started.
When are you going to get the discipline just to finish the bloody book, Tom?
No, because what I do is I because I'm addicted to processes, I don't just pick up a book. I like to create the area for perfect reading conditions. And then...
Wow, what's that then?
Well, like a little spotlight in a dark room and like, a little vibey thing.
You've got a reading room at home?
No, I've got a reading corner. I've got a reading corner. Under the stairs. Yeah, I'm basically like Harry Pottering these books. But then with the I get comfortable for a bit and then I kind of lose interest in it and then I have to go and make a different perfect spot for reading or something. That doesn't
sound like systems, that sounds like ADHD.
Yeah, it's definitely that. But now I'm reading it like an hour before bed and trying to do the 3-2-1 rule before bed, which I think I've talked about before. So no food 3 hours, no liquid 2 hours, no screen 1 hour before bed. And then I'm just reading before bed. And actually, I've only done it for one night and I feel $1 million. So it's going really well. But yeah, I do actually think, I think we normalize buying lots of equipment in photography. And I don't know if this is useful for anyone, but I think a lot of people get taught early in their careers, and it's kind of maybe a habit that sticks, is that the only way to get your tax bill down is buying kit. Well, that's not, I'm not allowed to now give out financial advice on the podcast. But if you are limited, that is maybe not the only way of bringing down your tax bill. There are maybe things that you could look into outside of that.
Try and sell that scheme that you've got in the British Virgin Islands again. Come on, we had enough letters last time.
Guys, hit me up on my DMs for... No, don't. Please don't.
I've got some crypto advice for you.
Yeah, buy Bitcoin. No, don't. But the, I think there's that myth, right? And so I kind of held that quite strongly for years, was just trying to get my tax bill down by buying kit. And then it just became a norm of me buying kit. And I think we're quite often like magpies being like, oh, that's new and shiny, I'll have that. And And actually,
it's also a tendency when things are a bit quieter or after like a busy period and you have a bit of a lull. You're like, oh, if I get this, I might be able to. Next time, everything will be a little bit smoother because I've got this system set up. And then you get something, and then it's not quite right, and then it kind of. I don't need to tell you.
No, unfortunately, you do not. No, but it is like that, and especially if things have been quiet or the year's maybe not been so good, you're kind of going, oh, maybe it might be my look, maybe it might be my style. Well, if I get that, maybe I can change things up and try this and do that. And it's a very, very easy. It's a very, very, and what I've maybe used it as a crutch throughout my career, and it's like I always think it's like an easy fix. Whereas actually, I feel maybe that me buying all the kit's been detrimental because I've not really then spent enough time with enough kit to really get to like an elite level with it. When I went through all those stupid system swaps, I kind of spent 4 or 5 months with a system. Well, that's definitely not enough time to live with a camera to get to know it. I kind of feel like you need to spend like, a year, 12 months, a year, 12 months. Yeah, about that. But maybe up to 18 months of really just using the camera to find your muscle memory about where the menus are and to get to become one with the camera. You know what I mean, though? You kind of you only want to spend a proper amount of time with it. And because I'd done all those stupid swaps, and I just feel like maybe that my work would be a bit better, or I might be a bit further along in my career had I not wasted all that time and money.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how on the 6th of March, whether I will be clawing at the door to get back my bank card, or whether I will actually be like, cool, that actually was brilliant.
You went cold turkey.
Currently, I'm 10 days in, and I feel fantastic for doing that. So, and what I've also learned is that I can borrow kit or rent it.
True. Or rent it.
And actually, if I'm going to borrow or rent things on jobs, I'm going to borrow a little camera and test it out, see if I like it. As opposed to normally, I would have just bought it, and then actually that's the money wasted. Yeah, so, and I do kind of wonder. I mean, I can only obviously ever speak from personal experience, but I do kind of wonder how it is going to be, because 100 days is actually quite a long time.
Yeah, it's almost a third of a year.
So, and for someone who buys something every week normally, do you know what though? It's like I'm genuinely looking forward to it. But listen, the podcast is not going to become again about me and my equipment. We will check in on every episode, and I'll give you a yes, I'm still doing okay, and we're at 76 days.
Are you going to count things like peripherals? Like the other day, I found myself buying Ethernet cables, different Ethernet cables and stuff like that, because I was like, turns out I've been using slow Ethernet cables for a while. Maybe if I buy some new ones, it will speed things up.
Oh, how'd that work out?
No idea. They haven't arrived yet.
Oh, right. Okay. So here's the thing, right? I'm not going to harm the business as a direct result of taking a bet on, but so it's capital assets that I'm not buying. So it is, for anyone who doesn't know what a capital asset is, it's something that you will hold on to for a long amount of time. It's not a disposable peripheral or a peripheral. So, because the thing is, if I break a cable and it's a tether cable I desperately need for work, I can't be on set being like 34 days left.
I can do the shoot, but
yeah, exactly.
After March 6th.
So, because obviously this now takes us well into the new year, so it definitely has to be capital assets, basically, which tend to be anything over 500 quid, and it tends to be stuff that you kind of like A, account for depreciation, B, kind of have to have on a asset register, and it's stuff that your accountant will do clever stuff with. So
I don't tend to buy big kit like that outside of sale season, and then when I do buy in sale season, I don't get the sale. But it's going to be interesting because I had another chance to play around with the new Fuji X100 S2 the other day at an event at the Fujifilm store, Capture One, and that was the new lens on that is looking the 55, which is kind of like a 40mm equivalent, is it looks beautiful, especially for portrait work.
What's the aperture on that? Max aperture?
I think it's a 2.8, but don't quote me on that. Which
so that
sounds
means
like it shouldn't be.
No, but then that means, if I'm right, I think I'm right. When you go up onto a larger sensor size, the aperture becomes smaller. So that is a 50-8 or 55-8, which then becomes a 40 f2. Is that right?
So it's a Oh no, wait a minute. It's 55 1. Can't be that one, can it? 1.7. Have I got this totally wrong?
A 50.
Yes.
Hang on, a 55 mil 1.7.
1.7.
Oof.
Yeah.
That sounds nice.
It's very nice. It's very, nice.
Is it? Well, here's a question for you. Is it massive?
No, not. It's probably the size of a 50 mil on a, probably slightly smaller than a 50 mil on an EF, RF kind of vibe. In fact, it's smaller than the RF50.
I mean, so, to be fair, in the RF50's defense, that's a big old prime, really.
Yeah.
Compared to the old 51.2 and then the 51.4.
Yeah. No, it's a tasty bit of kit. And also next year they're bringing out the new, it'll be whatever's replacing the X100V, which is a smaller kind of fixed lens, 23 mils to 35 mil version, kind of rangefinder style camera, which is an amazing little camera. I've owned every single iteration of it.
I disagree. Having also owned every iteration of it, I've never got on with it. But it's because it doesn't have like any kind of like haptic feedback or any kind of shutter. And so I can't really use cameras. This is like a personal thing, right? Do you remember like in the heady days when people were like, mirrorless technology is coming? It's going to make everything smaller. It
does have a tiny bit of haptic feedback, but it is very small.
But through my fingers, Greg.
You've got numb thumbs, mate. Numb
thumbs. That's the
I've always said that
trouble.
About you. Old numb thumbs barns.
I'm like, yeah, thumbs up for me, guys. But it's the lack of feedback, it's the lack of confirmation, it's the lack of like physicality. I still love.
I have to say, I prefer the X Pro 2 for that reason. In terms of having a shutter that you can actually feel go off, so you know that you've actually taken a picture. My other issue with the X100s was always that the dials were just too fiddly. Like not dials, sorry, the buttons were just too kind of small.
Yep.
And again, ergonomics are so important on a camera for me. Like you need to be able to be using a camera in a way where you're not thinking about it, you're not searching for that button, and that you're sure that your finger is on the button when without looking, basically.
But also,
the camera's got like tiny little delicate things on it. So it's just
But it's frustrating, isn't it? Because on the Fujis, the buttons, for example, on the X2HS that you use and the X100V, the buttons don't match up, do they? They're not in the. Some of them I think do, but then
not,
some of them are kind of off.
They always change it. Yeah, they change it relatively regularly. So,
I will say,
that is annoying.
That is annoying. I would tell you what, though, one of my favourite things about moving to mirrorless, and one of my favourite things about, I think every mirrorless system now offers this, but the Canon implementation is pretty good on it, is the being able to assign any button to any function. I love that. Like the full on being able to customize your camera to exactly how you like it. That for me has been, I would say, that's
another thing.
Biggest advantage.
The new GFX, they've got these 3 buttons underneath the shutter button at the front that are entirely programmable. No markings on them whatsoever. So there's literally
on the
3
top
in
of the
a row.
hand, on the top of the hand grip.
So where your trigger finger is on the shutter, just in front of them is 3 buttons there that you can program.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I think camera manufacturers are realizing that cameras that can be customized and modified in that way, and it's definitely the way forward. And Fuji have always been quite good with their firmware, haven't they, for those kind of things. So, and like we were having, I think it was when we had Jack Lowe on, who I can't remember if it was the conversation we had with him or with Grant Scott, we were talking about kind of the computerization of cameras and how the future of cameras is ultimately, you look at somebody like the iPhone and the fact that they are now, I think this is right, and they're not developing their own camera sensors moving forward or something.
I think that the plan is to take it in-house, yeah.
Yeah. So and ultimately, like, it's just the outside thing doesn't matter because all of the gubbins are inside in terms of the programming and the software, and that's where camera manufacturers have, always come unstuck because they just don't have that level of expertise in those departments to be working on the software as much as the kind of hardware. And as the hardware gets shrinks and becomes less important, you've got these tiny little camera lenses. Actually, it's all going to be about the software, and if my iPhone suddenly has an update and it can shoot in a new way, then that's kind of cool. So camera manufacturers kind of need to be doing that too.
I think they've got a bit of a shock recently, and especially kind of like when the latest Apple ad was shot exclusively on the whole kind of product announcement for the latest M3 MacBook Pro was shot on a rigged up iPhone. And I think camera companies are now suddenly going, right, okay, yes. But I think what's going to be interesting is there's going to be shifts to more interesting tech. For example, Sony with the A9 III moved to a global shutter. Now, obviously, first generation global shutter, I'm sure there's going to be a dink in kind of overall image quality. There'll be kind of a drop in ISO performance, as tends to be the case with global shutters. But then also there is going to be, hopefully second generation of these global shutters. They'll work around that and they'll improve that technology. And then, we're going to be laughing, because I very much doubt. Well, I mean, maybe global shutter could come to a like an iPhone or something like that. I don't know. It's all exciting stuff. What I've really learned, though, in my 10 days without equipment is how little the equipment actually truly matters.
It's taken you this to realise that.
Sort of, yes. But for the sake of the podcast, I'll just say, no, I've known this all along, Greg. I'm just imparting it on the listeners. No, it's for me, I've always just been just distracted with the tech. And what's really been obvious in the past 10 days is how much I would just go to the websites and see what was new and just be like, oh, that would be interesting. And what I've done is I've caught myself doing it. And so it's really interesting. But it'll be interesting to see whether all the camera companies take all the tech. I mean, I've been saying now on the podcast for what feels like a year is, what more? I will upgrade when the Canon stuff goes to global shutter, but I don't honestly know what more they're going to bring in before that would cause me to upgrade. I really don't. They brought out the 24-105, which is I'll have that, and then that'll be my dream setup basically.
Onboard 32-bit float.
That would actually be great. I would completely.
There you go, Canon. Drop that in the next. If you could drop it within the next 90 days, that would be a real test for somebody.
Yeah, but 91 days, Canon.
Virtually
91 days. March 7th, I think that was getting announced. But no, it's an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see what we talk about other than kit.
Yeah.
Or it's interesting to see what I talk about other than kit. Kits, I think it's been such a big part of mine, and I'm sure there are a lot of other photographers who also had a big part of the kit being, important to their enjoyment of photography or part of their career. What's really interesting is I've started planning out projects, organizing kind of like little shoots, and figuring out, like, I've redone the website, which goes live in early Jan, like all that in 10 days. Whereas before, I'm sure I would have just sat there of an evening being like, well, if I do this and I sold this and I could buy that and then maybe I could get this. And actually, it's amazing how much time you waste looking up the specs on this stuff, which actually in real terms makes no difference. It does. It literally is what you want to put creatively out there.
Of course, ultimately, I mean, this is also part of the whole thing, and the market kind of sells you the idea that you need this to be good, and it's not. Where it comes down is having the idea. Not just having the idea, but being able to actually execute it. And I mean, we are both in situations where the executing the idea and finding the time to do that and fitting that around family life is probably more difficult now than it has been in previous years. so we've got that in our defence. But I definitely think, it's more important to be focusing on the ideas.
Oh, for sure. And I think this is what it's been really good to get a bit of a kick up the arse and just be like, okay, well, actually, I have much less time than I used to have. So, focusing, self-control, self-discipline. It actually turns out surprisingly helpful attributes to nurture and have. Maybe we should get Jocko Willink on the podcast.
I think he's quite busy with his own podcast.
I would imagine so. He's a busy guy.
He's prolific. Yeah.
He's a busy guy. If people don't know who Jocko Willink is, he is an ex-Navy SEAL who is now a life coach. Is probably a bit of a. He
does like that kind of corporate leadership coaching, doesn't he?
Yeah, I don't know what the right term. I don't know what the right term is for it. But he's quite an inspirational guy.
Like Jocko Juice.
Does he? Does he actually?
Of course, all those big podcasters sell those supplements.
Exposed Negative Juice coming next week. So,
taste of camera.
Developing fluid.
Yum yum.
So listen, obviously, as we head towards Christmas, it's a time for giving.
Mm-hmm.
See where I'm going with this? If you'd like to support the show, we're on patreon.com. Yeah, that one. We're on Patreon.
So well.
I thought I'd smash that. No, patreon.com/exposed negative. If you would like to support the show and join the group and really rib me about this 100-day challenge. But can I just say, if you have even just listened to one episode this year, probably this one, if you're listening to this right now, is probably this episode. But thank you so much for listening. We've been tagged in a few people's Spotify Wrapped,
yes,
which has been cool. So know, there was one person.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, I'd kind of forgotten about it. It comes around every year, and you go, "Oh, right, that's amazing! How much data Spotify holds on me." Right. But we are in a lot of people's top Wrapped. So thank you so much for listening to the show, and it's massively appreciated. And hopefully, the effort we put in has paid dividends, and you've found it useful.
If there's one thing, I guess, that we'd ask for, if you haven't yet, just to help us out with the show, if you could find the time to find us on YouTube and subscribe. We're really trying to boost the numbers on there. It just helps have wider reach in general. And you can find us at www.youtube.com/@exposednegative.
Are we doing the www dot? I feel at that point you might as well just be like
https://
Yeah. No, but honestly, it does really help. So if we've helped in any way, if you could give us a subscribe or send us a check for, I don't know, 10, 15 grand, that'd be great. And pounds, not US. And that would be very kind. But as we head towards Christmas, there is also something that comes of New Year. Now, I spoke to Greg about this before we came on, and he said he had no idea. So, Greg, what are your New Year's resolutions?
Well, I shall repeat what I said earlier. Well, I won't, because it involves several profanities.
I gave you an hour.
Oh man, I mean, like you, I'm relaunching my website next year. That's been something that's been very slow in the making, but that's due to kind of some factors which are outside of my control. Not the developer, who's been brilliant, but just shout out to Tom.
We love Tom.
The amount of time that I've been able to put into it, amongst other things, like in between parenting, and so that's going to be launching in the new year, and I'm going to be looking to do more personal projects in general. I'm looking to become better with my marketing generally. I'm rubbish at reaching out to people. I honestly think,
if we're all being honest, we're all
last
not
week
that great on it.
When Mitch was talking about it, I was just like, you're singing to the choir here. I'm mixing my metaphors, but yeah, basically, I'm very much of that ilk of just not getting around to sending out marketing mailers. So I need to get better at that. And I always used to have a thing that I was like, if I can work in one new country that I've not been to before, I'd be quite happy. Since the pandemic, that's been a little bit tougher. And obviously, it's one of those things, the more places that you work, the harder it becomes, because you just end up going back to places that you've already been, which, well, cry me a river. But, it was a nice... But, yeah, sorry. I know, I sound like an absolute knob there. But, yeah, it's always nice to have something like that, just to kind of have in your mind's eye to be like, yeah, I'd quite like to visit somewhere I've not visited before. For me, it's always quite useful because it just is, to get inspiration. I find that really helps as well, to be thrust into a place I'm not familiar with.
So for a man,
they're really wishy-washy, basically.
Yeah, but for a man who didn't have any an hour ago, I would say you've done quite well to make all them up in an hour. Well done.
They're the same. They're the same ones I have every year.
Do you keep right? So I keep a record of them in
yeah. Of course you do, in your systems.
In my systems, because I always like to basically make sure that I'm not repeating myself too much on the podcast. Okay. But yeah, it's very good. I think that's a properly solid.
That's good.
Little set.
It's good to kind of be able to hold yourself to account, to actually have them somewhere and be like, this is 2024. These are my New Year's resolutions, and then at the end of the year, kind of cry yourself to sleep when you realise you've maybe got one of them.
Well, I kind of tie it in with I use a bit of software called MindNode, and
I knew there was going to be that.
Of course.
It sends you reminders to do your New Year's resolution.
No. It's basically it's
do better, Tom. Do better.
Be better, Greg. Be better. The MindNode is like a mind map, and it basically just means that you can put what it is you want in the middle, and then you can kind of do. And I like doing these. If I'm ever stressed about something or things like that, I'll put in what I'm stressed about, and then I'll kind of do a mind map of everything that kind of I need the stress or I need to think about, and then I start talking about elements of it that are causing me stress. Well, why is that causing me stress? Oh, it's causing me stress because the money's not good enough. Well, the outcome is you either accept it or you go back to them and say, this is how much I would be happy to do it for. So that doing it that way enables me to break down stresses into each element and then stop worrying about the things I can't control. So I do that every year, and then I refer back to it throughout the year. And actually, it's a really good exercise in doing that. So, yeah. So my one of my resolutions is to stop using MindNode and stop. No, my resolutions are actually not too dissimilar to yours, but one of my main resolutions is to be better at self-control and self-discipline, better at time management. That is a big thing that I really would like to become much better at. And a big part of that is being able to say no.
Did we mention the other day how you came around for a 20-minute coffee and left?
I don't know if we did.
7 or 8 hours later.
Yeah, so I was in the area and I dropped in and I was like, oh, Greg, are you about, I'll drop in for like a 15, 20-minute cup of tea. And then, it was, 8.5 hours later I left yours?
Yeah, it was about half
I got home at like 1:32 a.m.
And you had all these grand plans of like cleaning the office and getting things done. I was thinking, I'm going to get this done.
Well, so here's the
generous
thing.
with your time, Tom.
Well, I should learn to say no, right? But here's actually weirdly where one of my other and probably I think my most important New Year's resolution is going to come in, and it's actually just like self-acceptance and being kinder to myself.
Okay.
Like, it sounds like a weird thing to bring up, but I punish myself a lot and I feel guilty a lot for not being able to do that, or if I haven't done that, the stress builds up, or if I've bought that and I shouldn't have bought that. I mean, we all know that, but like I'm very down on myself a lot. And so one of my
Do you really think you should be reading Jocko's book about discipline?
Well, I'm kind of hoping
Do you need to be beasted by an ex-Navy SEAL?
Well, I'm hoping that the two kind of find this like happy ground of like, well, do you know what? I didn't do that, but I'm going to be kind to myself, and I'll try and do it next week. But like,
Jackal says no.
But like, it's. I feel like as freelancers, especially if things haven't kind of gone how we want, or like things haven't kind of panned out, that we kick ourselves like quite hard. I've been particularly I've been particularly hard on myself this year and last year, and actually, it does nobody any favors.
No, because it makes you grumpy, because you're kind of like angry with yourself, so you become kind of less pleasant to be around. But also, you're holding yourself to such a high standard.
Who said I was unpleasant a bit? Great.
No one.
Sure.
No, I know this purely from personal experience. So yeah, because I'm the same. I kind of beat myself up about stuff. I have high standards for myself on certain things, and it's. You notice how I said certain things. Some things, let that fly. But I don't think, it's an important part of being a freelancer. Ultimately, like, the buck stops with you. It's kind of what we get used to. There's no one else to really call us out. So you have to be relatively self-disciplined. I think that's just something we naturally become after years of doing it, because if you don't, things do get, you let too many things go flying, and you don't end up with a business anymore. So I think that's natural. I don't think you should beat yourself up about beating yourself up.
It's like a nice
thing to have. Yeah,
it's a nice resolution, right? Like, and actually, one of my big things, like in 24, is just like, actually, just be a bit more relaxed. Like, things are stressful, like they really are, but like, actually, can you control that? No. Well, you kind of got to let that go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna take on anything that I can't control, like stress wise. Obviously, I take on anything I can't control, but that tiger for one. But with all of this stuff, it just feels like actually being kinder to yourself should be the number one New Year's resolution. And so for me, I bought some kit that maybe I shouldn't have done this year, but I've got rid of it and everything's good. So I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm not going to kick myself about it. Move forward, make better decisions moving forward, and like just be kind. Like if in the famous words of RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anyone else?
Okay, I'm so glad you got that. I was like, he's not going to know what it is.
For the life of me, yeah, that is right though, isn't it? How the hell are you going to love?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Sure. Just be kind to yourself. Take some time off. Watch some telly. But it's. I think actually being kind to yourself.
You're going to sign off like Jerry Springer there.
Do you know what? What I don't even know how would Jerry Springer sign it off?
Be kind to yourself. And each other.
Hey, I mean, that's not a bad way to end it, right? Like, we're just over the hour mark.
Well, after you've had an hour of people going at each other's throats and you're on the sidelines egging them on, and then at the end you go, be kind to yourself and each other. Until next week, we'll do it all again.
Well, I mean, he got the views, to be fair. It did work for him.
It did.
But
God rest his soul.
I feel 24 is going to be an interesting year for photography in general. We'll see AI, for example, get to a level that will be massively affecting various things. And so, actually, if we're
trying to take a picture and your camera will be going, no, it's a rubbish picture. Do you think that's a good picture? I wouldn't take that picture.
Try again.
Don't worry, I'll take the picture for you.
Yeah, right. Oh, thanks, camera. Appreciate that. But I think just be kind, be nice, and be softer on yourself. Actually can't necessarily be the world's worst thing.
Yeah.
Plus, also, you wait till March 7th when I unleash hell on my bank account, and the photo industry has a great big boon, and we the SEPA registry go, what the bloody hell happened in March? Tom started buying new systems.
The economy, yeah.
Yeah. So, what's that? That's a call from Downing Street. You want it in March? No problem. But yeah, I think I don't really think. Do you know what I'm not going to also do? I'm not going to set like granular or too many New Year's resolutions. Actually, if I could just have the whole be kinder to myself, be better at time management, and maybe be a bit better at marketing, well, that's enough. like with all the other resolutions I have personally, like be a better dad and like, you know, sorry, be an even better dad and like stuff like that. You know, it's like there's a lot of
eating hobnobs.
I don't know if I can commit to that, Greg. So, I mean, it's the chocolate ones that get me, especially ones that have been in the fridge.
Ooh, that's a good tip.
And on that chocolatey note,
yes.
But listen, thank you to everyone for listening to the show and listening to us two waffle on. It's been a pleasure to serve.
Merry Christmas, folks.
Thank you very much for listening to the latest episode of the Exposed Negative podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by heading to our Patreon or doing one-offs. The details are on the website, and the Patreon is patreon.com/exposed negative. We'd love it if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/exposed negative. And obviously, we're on Instagram, which is xnegative. If you want to follow us personally, mine is tombarnes.com on Instagram. And the website, and then Greg's is at Greg Fennell, and that's Funnell. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and hopefully you enjoy the next one.